Ms. Lummis, if you would care to ask a question or two.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I do want to welcome some wonderful familiar faces that do business in my state, not only Greg Schaefer, who is a Wyoming resident, longtime friend, but Dave Locke, Jeff Simon, and Jim Pierce, all of whom are substantial employers in my state and produce a lot of energy and do it in a way that is respectful of the Wyoming that I love and want to see preserved and passed down to my daughter and her children. So I want to thank you all for the wonderful jobs that you do in creating jobs and doing it in a manner that's so respectful of our beautiful state. Mr. Rogers, just a comment for you before I ask questions of the other panelists. It's so surprising to me that given the fact that 5.5 years ago, the district office would have been able to approve a permit. They had all the information that they needed, and you still don't have one, especially given the fact that Nevada's unemployment is among the highest in the nation, and that one Nevada senator happens to be the leader of the U.S. Senate right now. It seemed possible that if they really wanted your jobs and wanted the employment, that it would be an important priority for that particular senator to take before the President of the United States. So I feel for you that that jobs are not the priority that sometimes certain senators suggest that they might be. But now I'm going to ask questions, starting with Mr. Pierce. You and I have discussed several times the royalty rate, and among the things that FMC, your company, is unique in that you have staked your business model on natural soda ash production in the United States, rather than seeing that China is subsidizing its synthetic production and other countries are creating opportunities for synthetic production. So they're hedging their bets and acquiring assets, both domestic production and foreign production. In fact, a lot of companies that are foreign-based have simply bought into the natural trona ash in Wyoming. But you've staked your claim on American natural soda ash. In that regard, the royalty rate that is charged, that is now going to increase, has increased as of October, has an impact in your global competitiveness. Could you describe that?
Excuse me. If you go back and look at history, prior to this law being passed in 2006, we had seen a decrease in exports. The Congress saw fit in its wisdom to reduce that royalty from 6% to 2%, and during the intervening 5-year period of time, the exports of soda ash went up 1 million tons. We went to a net exporter. We now export more than 50%, or actually 52% of our total production. Basically, we are running the soda ash industry, not just FMC, but the domestic natural soda ash industry is running at 100% rate. If you go to, and in particular, we'll look at we'll look at China, but they're running at our estimates at approximately 80% occupancy, and that is due to us being more competitive. We can produce and ship soda ash anywhere in the world more competitively than the synthetic soda ash producers can. And that is in part due to the support we've received in this soda ash royalty reduction. And to go back to 6% is to take us back to a situation where we were seeing decreased exports and, in fact, decreased jobs. We, as you are aware, are planning to build a rather major expansion at our Granger facility in Wyoming, and the production from that facility would be exclusively dedicated to export, which is all driven by this export growth. So it has helped us. It has helped the industry, not just FMC. It has helped the industry.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Due to an obligation that my colleague, Representative Bishop, has, I'm going to yield some of my time to him, but I'll come back to you. Thank you. The transportation bill, Mr. Simon, is something we've been wrestling with between the House and the Senate, and even within the House. Could you comment on the importance of resolving that issue to your business?
Yes, I can, Congresswoman. Prior to the recession, Knife River Corporation's business was roughly 50-50, public sector, private sector. But post-recession, if we're in fact out of the recession, we now depend on public infrastructure projects for about 90% of our business. We have not seen much of a recovery, you know, from the housing market, and that is followed by commercial development. A lot of that activity is not happening in some of our markets, or many of our markets actually. So I guess I would just say that it's vitally important to our operation right now to sustain some level of capacity to build until that private economy does recover.
Statistic I hadn't heard before. It used to be 50-50, and now you're, did you
In our
say
company, it's about 90-10 right now.
90-10 right now. Wow. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Locke, you mentioned the NSPS rule. Can you explain why it's impossible for new coal-fired power plants to meet the new rule? Is it humanly impossible, or is it too expensive?
Well, thank you, Congressman, and it's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
You know, I should have probably paid more attention in chemistry when I was in high school. But I think the answer is that that the technology just doesn't exist. I mean, it exists on very small scale for carbon capture and sequestration. In fact, at Tri-State in western Colorado, we're doing a very small demonstration project simply to see if some land near one of our power plants is suitable for storing carbon. But I think the rule anticipates a technology and an ability to capture and store carbon dioxide that doesn't exist today.
And it could entangle existing plants, not just new ones?
Congressman, that's the concern. There are some people that know the Clean Air Act well who read it to say that it potentially, even though it's a new source performance standard, that it could impact existing plants, especially perhaps through the new source review provision, if we have to do modifications of our plants, that it could potentially impact us that way.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Schaefer, question for you about your comments on the roadless restrictions. Senator Barrasso and Representative Kevin McCarthy over in the House have a bill to lift roadless restrictions. And if that happens, will users of public lands be able to bypass any environmental laws? You know, if your company would have access to lands in the event that the roadless rules are lifted, would you be able to bypass environmental laws, other environmental laws?
Mr. Chairman, Congressman Lummis, we operate under the Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act of 1977, and that requires us at our own expense to reclaim and restore any surface disturbance that we did.
So the answer is no. You'd have to
no.
comply with all the other environmental laws. Yeah.
The laws would still apply.
How long does it take on average for a mine to get an environmental and safety permit so it can start turning some dirt?
Mr. Chairman, from the time of lease application, if it's federal coal, to the lease sale, to the permitting, to the turning of dirt, Used to be about 3 years, and now it's about 7.
Okay. How long ago was it 3?
Mr. Chairman, it would have been back in the early to mid 1990s.
Okay. Thank you. I'm taking some notes, so excuse me for my slowness. May I ask one more question, Mr. Chairman? Thank you. No reason want me to go like this. Back to Mr. Pierce. Why is it that U.S. soda ash producers can stay competitive with surface mines? You know, you're so far underground. How can you do that? A surface mine in Africa versus your underground mine in the U.S. with all of our environmental laws and their lack thereof. How can you stay competitive with them?
With surface mine
in Africa.
Well,
let's pick.
There are very few natural soda ash deposits in the world that have been found, at least, and none comparable to what I refer to as a world resource in Sweetwater County. There's nothing to compare to. We have hundreds, if not thousands of years of soda ash reserves that would supply the world sitting there in Wyoming. And there have been some smaller ones, one in China, one in Turkey, and one in South Africa, as I understand. Each of them would represent a small, less than 1% of the world production. So it's natural soda ash production is not a threat. I say a threat. It's not available to the rest of the world because it doesn't exist, except practically speaking in southwest Wyoming. Synthetic soda ash, on the other hand, you make from chemicals, and you create more greenhouse gas. You use more energy, and it is an inherently less efficient, more polluting route to making soda ash. And soda ash is required, of course. If you're going to have glass, you're going to have soda ash. So soda ash is necessary worldwide for the way our standard of living, our world standard of living functions. So we're blessed in the U.S. and Wyoming with the ability to dig up what Mother Nature left for us. We don't have to make it by using chemistry and energy and polluting more. So that we are more competitive fundamentally because the product is already there. It's 90% pure. 10% of what we mine is insols or shale, and the rest is basically soda ash, if you will. And so it's a purification process, not a manufacturing process.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.